Namaskar, I'm Harpreet Kaur and I welcome you all to our live and interactive session. You are watching our training session on Internet of Things and mobile devices and its safety. Well, this is the topic umbrella theme for our training program which we are conducting this week, and today is day 4 of the training session where we will talk about legal landscape of IoT and mobile devices, navigating regulations and compliance. So, this is a training program that you are watching on PME Vidya channels from 6 to 12 and also on our YouTube channel NCERT Official. This session is live and interactive, which means you can participate in the session with your questions, suggestions and feedback. So, if you wish to make us a call and speak to our experts, please take down our phone number, which is 8800440559. We also have a dedicated email ID for you, and that is training.helpdesk@ciet.nic.in. We are streaming this session live on our YouTube channel NCERT Official, which means that you can go to the comment section, send in your questions, suggestions and feedback to us so that we can incorporate relevant content, newer content and improve upon our training sessions. You know, we have been talking about Internet of Things of late, but it is very important to understand this concept deeply. And for the same, we are joined by our experts. So, today we will talk about it. We will get into the basic details first of all, and then we will go further. Now, we are joined by Dr. Rajesh D. Sir is Associate Professor from Department of ICT and Training Division, CIET NCERT, New Delhi. Sir, namaskar and welcome to the session.
Namaste.
Now, before I actually ask direct questions to Sir, it's very important to tell you that this is a training program and there is going to be an assessment. You can participate in the assessment, and if you score more than 70%, you will get a certificate. So, definitely you have been watching our website CIET, all the details are there. Please fetch the details from there and make sure that you watch all our sessions very carefully. Now, sir, before we really go into the depth of today's theme, I first of all want you to make us understand, and all the people out there who are not that technically familiar with this terminology, what exactly IoT is, and when we talk about its safety, security, what do we mean by the same?
Yeah, the word Internet of Things itself gives us the meaning with the abbreviated as IoT, where the backbone of this connectivity starts from using internet. So, we all know how it is very productive in using internet as well as the pros and cons towards the applications. There are very much new technologies arising every day, whereas this IoT focuses on easy, friendly, user based. So, when you see any smart device or any electronic device that could be embedded with internet, that could be easily connected with internet and it can be used. Mostly IoT focuses on applications. It can be in the agricultural field, it can be in the education field, it can be any scientific field, or it can be even used in most of the devices where our Divang children can use it. So, the Internet of Things refers to a network of connectivity where most of the devices can communicate and exchange their data to give flourished information towards the internet. So, that is the basic definition behind IoT that most of us use.
Okay, and so what about the threats? When we say that we face threats in terms of IoT, does that mean only breaching of data? Or does that mean losing out on some other important information, or does that mean weak passwords? So, what exactly do we imply by that?
Yes, rightly you asked a very wonderful question here. Whenever we use internet, so when we say internet, it is a interconnected devices and we do not know which network or the user who is using the network is, what intention he is focusing in is also not known to anybody. If he is using the internet for the safety purpose, if he is using the internet for medical purpose, if he is using for any education purpose, nobody knows for whom, for which purpose the particular
Right.
internet is used. So, in that point of view, safety causes a big number of
Okay.
issue for the user. So, IoT focuses on plenty number of applications that are being defined. In the agriculture field, earlier, for example, before going to this agriculture, I can even say a smart thing that even for an application of overflowing tank, normally which we say that the tank is filled with water, how to stop it, how to control the overflow, we normally use IoT devices.
Right. Right. So, no, we have been hearing about smart cities, smart farming, smart healthcare. So we can say they're connected, directly connected to the IoT devices and IoT thing. But sir, you know what? We would like to thank you for giving us a basic idea of what exactly do we mean by IoT. So thank you so much, sir,
Thank you.
for introducing the topic in such a wonderful manner. And now let me tell all my viewers that this session is organized by CIET NCERT in collaboration with I4C, which is Indian Cybercrime Coordination Center under Ministry of Home Affairs, New Delhi. I was talking about a training session, remember? So let's take a look at the website, how you can register and participate. So this is our website, ciet.ncert.gov.in. Here you go to the activities section, and of course workshop and training is the option to go for. Current activities, you can see online training on Internet of Things, mobile devices and its safety. Then there's a complete write-up. Why do we need that? Who all can participate? What are the objectives of the training program? Entire program schedules, and we have been uploading our videos of all the sessions that have been conducted already here. How to participate? Click on the link or scan this QR code. That's the first step. Second step, watch all the sessions very attentively that are streaming on these platforms. Number 3, take up the online course or assessment. If you score more than 70%, you will be getting a certificate, and here are the details when it will be opened and everything. Last but not the least, you have to submit your feedback to us. It is very important for us to hear from you. So either you click on the link, scan this QR code, or write to us on training.helpdesk@ciet.nic.in, or just give us a call on the number that is there. So that was about it, and as I mentioned earlier that today is day 4 of the session, and on day 4 we will talk about legal landscape of IoT and mobile devices, navigating regulations and compliance, and we have also invited our expert in the studio for the same. We are joined by Mr. Satyendra Gupta. Sir is cyber law expert from I4C, Ministry of Home Affairs, New Delhi. Sir, namaskar and welcome to the session. And so, we have been listening about IoT. We have just got, once again, a very basic idea. Sir has introduced this topic once again. We talked about threats also. We talked about, how it is challenging these days to basically maintain their safety and security aspect. Now, what about the regulations and compliances? Sir, I request you to kindly go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you so much, ma'am. First of all, I would like to tell my viewer that we had known IoT for such a long time. Like previous of my speaker had also explained what is IoT and what are the consequences of the IoT. But now is the time to understand what are the regulations, legal framework and other mechanism to deal any diverse or any emerging effect which is not legally correct for our country. So we have our certain rules and regulations which is prevailing right now in the country. So we will talk about that in brief detail, so that you have a basic understanding that if IoT is our upcoming future, then we have to ready for it. So first I would like to take you to my presentation.
Yes.
So basically we had seen that IoT threat landscapes, what is this IoT threat landscapes, how it deals with the digital devices and other things. Now I would like to take you currently to the legal framework. What is IoT? You already know that, I don't have to explain it a lot. So now I would like to highlight this picture before you, because this picture already been highlighted before you, but as a technical aspect, I would like to how these appliances, which you can see on your screen, that these appliances will going to impact in your real life. So we can see that a person who is holding a mobile phone is dealing with lots of digital appliances such as a curtain, window, motor sensor, host, TV box, hi-fi, TV, LED lights, aircon switches, door sensor, socket, kettle, cooker, lights. Now see, the technical part will explain that how these devices is connected with your network, which is currently going on in your mobile whenever you are dealing with the IoT. Now these appliances are taking your data. What kind of data? It's your personal data. The personal data may contain your lots of identifiable and identifiers, such as your biometric data, such as your health data, such as your phone numbers and date of birth, addresses, etc. So these appliances has to have check within their framework, within their guideline, that whether these data are used in a authorized manner or not, whether these data are going to deal by some regulatory framework or not, whether these data of yours, your personal data, is in safe hand or not, and what if these data will go to any unsafe hand, unauthorized entity, then what are the resources, the legal resources which we have right now in our country to deal with. Now if we see that the IoT real time applications also dealing the smart city missions. So basically we have background of data privacy in our country. There's a lots of battle going in between of legislature and the judicial framework, where judiciary has decided in the leading case judgment of the Justice K.S. Puttasamy versus Union of India in 2017, where the issue of Aadhaar card has been deliberated and discussed in a detail, where Supreme Court has also pointed few of the very basic things which every citizens of this country should have, or in a rightful manner, what are their fundamental rights and what are the things including should be included in the right of privacy, and that too also incorporated under Article 21. So claiming from that judgment, we have to come to the Sri Krishna Committee report, where the Personal Data Protection Bill has been discussed and deliberated. Then we have Personal Data Protection Bill in 2018 and 19, in 2021, then again in 2022, and finally on 11th August 2023, we have Digital Personal Data Protection Act, that is known as the DPDP Act in short. So DPDP Act had been assented by the President on 11th August 2023. I would like to tell my viewer that DPDP Act is yet to be enforced, because the rule has to be laid down by the legislature. But IoT right now in our country focusing in various key legal provision, like in IT, if we are talking about the IoT, what are the law we have right now? We have Information Technology Act 2000, which previously dealing the unauthorized access, the offences related to the unauthorized access, data theft and other related digital frauds, things related to the IoT. What if IoT has been breached and your data got in unauthorized entity, got in the hand of the unauthorized entity? Now if you see that Information Technology Act has very limited provision, was not ready to deal the emerging threats which IoT can lead in our real life. So the focus area of the Information Technology Act diverges with the electronic transaction security, unauthorized access, etc. Now the DPDP Act, which will include all of the aspects which were remaining to be included in IT Act. Now the DPDP Act is treated to be a comprehensive act which will deal your all kind of issues related to the data and the privacy issues. Now we have already a National Cyber Security Policy 2013, wherein the broader guideline has been laid down by for the cyber security and how this network security should be dealt of. Now we have a smart cities mission, urban development, which increase IoT integration. Now if something is emerging as a technology to help the citizen of the country, the citizens should not be afraid of. The citizens should adopt that technology, and for that thing, for that trust, the government is ready to make all the things necessary for the citizens, so that the data of the citizens and other things which IoT may lead to adverse consequences can be dealt of. If now I'm going to move to my next slide, where you can see we are going to talk about the Digital Protection Data Act 2023 in detail. Ma'am.
Sure, sir. So let's talk about the Act now. And I think, sir, new regulations and compliances have been introduced so as to ensure even more security features. So what does this compliance says about it?
Ma'am, we have, I would like to tell my viewer that the DPDP Act is including all other aspects which IT Rule 2011 was dealing earlier. Now, the IT Rule 2011 has dealt few of the aspects which were required earlier. Now, dealing with the emerging threats such as the adverse impact of the IoT or the data breach or the unauthorized access of the data of the citizens, we have DPDP Act wherein it has been decided to lay down each and every definitions in a broader manner, where the legislature has intended to categorize each and every offence in a detailed manner and mandated few of the regulations that who are the particular authorized agency who will deal the data of the citizens, so that it should not be going to lead as an adverse impact on the citizen's life. Now, we have to also stop the unauthorized access so that the other pillar should also prevail in our country. Now, if we talk about the DPDP Act, we can see the important provisions which were there. I would tell you in a brief detail. So, we have section 2J where it has been talked about the individuals whose personal data is going to be acquired, and now who will be the going to data processor, which is laid down under section 2K. If we see that the data processor and the data fiduciary, these are the two leading terms in which hand the data will going to be retained. If we see that data fiduciary, the role of the data fiduciary is in a broader term. The data fiduciary has been laid down for the things that they will decide for what purpose the data should be processed and how the data should be processed. The data fiduciary will tell the data processor that these are the purpose, these are the basic requirement which you have to fulfill while processing the data of the any person. Now, if you see, we have data, the definition of a data, what it includes, and we have also the definition of personal data, and in personal data what are the things included. So, it's not about that each and every aspect should be covered in one act. It's also about that the act should be so comprehensive which can deal the upcoming measures also. So, you can see clearly that the personal, if we talk about the personal data, what are the data we are talking about, and that personal data is going to be included in your IoT thing and the devices which the IoT will have. Now, the devices which are already connected from your phone or the network, which will going to impact your real life, it is going to use your personal data such as email address, home address, date of birth, which I had also talked about earlier, photo, phone number, bank account, credit number, Aadhaar number, passport number, vehicle registration number, IP address, cookie ID, password, location ID, and the mobile device ID. If you see that these details, these personal data it's very crucial for your life. It's like if some of the details is going in the wrong hand, then it will lead you in the trap of the cyber crimes, which is right now going on. Like if your credit card detail, Aadhaar number, date of birth, or the phone number or bank account has been gone to the unauthorized entity or the cyber fraudster or the cyber criminals, they can trap you in any sort of the cyber crime.
But sir, here I would like to know about this cookie ID. What is that?
Cookie ID, it's something which whenever we use any website or any platform over the internet, over your device or mobile based device or the desktop based device, you can see clearly that for that the cookie, they will let you accept some of the terms and conditions in form of the cookie, that you have to accept this cookie for before running this website. you give the consent if you accept that cookie ID. You had given your consent and without reading it, that what are the term and condition mentioned over there. So always be aware whenever you have to accept the cookie ID or the reject the cookie ID, go with the term and condition written over there, it's already there, and try to find out what are the data they are going to have, they are going to collect from you, so that you can be alert that what kind of a data is going to be shared with these particular platform which you are going to open.
Okay.
Now, it's your location ID and mobile device ID. So these are the details which can lead you the cyber crimes, such as if I have, being a cyber criminal, if I have your Aadhaar number or password or the credit card number, I can trap you easily in any sort of the cyber crime, such as investment scam or the OTP scam or any kind of financial cyber fraud. So you will going to deal all sort of the things, so that you have to protect your personal data. Your personal data is very important. It's also a responsibility of the government to deal such kind of a situation where personal data going to be deal in several hands. So the government has decided to lay down such kind of a framework where your data can be secured, so that the entity whichever entity is going to gather your personal data has to have regulated by legal framework. Now, what are the grounds mentioned under the DPDP Act under section 4 through which your data can be processed? Now, being a person, your personal data is covered under the DPDP Act, and you will be called as the data principal. The individual who is going to give their data is called as the data principal, and the person who is going to process the data of data principal is called as the data processor. These terms are very, very important to remember, because once you are not remembering, you are not understanding this particular term like data principal or data processor and data fiduciary, you cannot understand the full provision of the DPDP Act. Now understand that you are the data principal because your data is going to be processed by the data processor. It's very clear. Now data fiduciary will monitor and supervise this data processor, like in what manner and for what purpose this data can be processed. Now your personal data can only be processed for the lawful purpose. The word is very clear, for lawful purpose, not for unlawful purpose. Now the citizen can feel safe after coming of this DPDP Act. The citizen can feel safe. They can easily navigate through all kind of emerging technology. They can take the benefit of the all kind of emerging technology, because why? Your personal data is only be processed for the lawful purpose. Now, for the lawful purpose, what do you mean by the lawful purpose? I wanted to indicate here that the lawful purpose means two things. It will also include consent from the data principal. The data principal has to give their explicit, unambiguous and clear consent to the data processor or the data fiduciary whenever they are going to give their data to the data processor for any kind of a processing. Take an example. If you are going to if you are running any kind of mobile app or any kind of website you are opening or registering thereof, or you are creating any kind of a login ID, so you have to mention few of the details like your name, email address, date of birth and phone number, and some other places also PAN number and other things. So the data processor and data fiduciary has to have mentioned the purpose, for what purpose they are taking your data and for how long these data can be retained at their platform or the mobile app, and in what manner you can withdraw your consent that okay, now it is a time I don't wanted to share my data with you, I wanted to withdraw my consent, then that should also be mentioned over there. Now see, each and everything is there. What is the responsibility of the citizen here is to read the term and conditions very carefully. Every time we see that citizens always escape this thing. Like they are not willing to, they are not intended to read the term and condition. They are in such a hurry manner, okay, it's a term and condition, let it be, accept it, do our work and close it. No, term and condition is a very crucial part. We are talking about the IoT adverse impact, we are talking about other mobile devices, and we are talking about the emerging technology where nothing but your personal data is going to lead adverse impact. It's not the IoT technology, it's your data is going to lead adverse impact if you are not aware about the term and condition. So always read term and condition carefully, like for what purpose they are taking your data, whether they are going to disseminate to other entity, the third party, or whether this data can be localized in this country, or this data will be going to share to outside country. Now I had I would also going to tell you that what are the other things in the DPDP Act where the data localization is being dealt of. Now we had talked about the consent. Now come to the next point, for certain legitimate uses, that is deemed consent. For certain legitimate uses, it's already mentioned in the DPDP Act. What are the legitimate uses? So if any data processor or the data fiduciary is going to ask your data, apart from the legitimate uses or the consent which you had explicitly given, that will not be covered under the lawful purpose. And in DPDP Act, not only government has mentioned the substantial law, but they had also put the penal provision, like in case of unauthorized access, data breach, what are the penalty which any data processor is going to deal. Now come to the next slide. We will going to talk consent in more detail, like what are the things while you are giving your consent that should be considered of. The consideration for consent, what does this imply? A clear, affirmative and unambiguous, which I had already discussed with you, and this will inform you that individual must be aware of at least the controller identity, purpose of processing and possibility to withdraw the consent. Specifics, what are the specifics? Consent cannot be hidden in the privacy policy, it should be explicit, not the implied. It should be clear to you whenever you will log in or whenever you will going to register at any portal, it should be on the screen so that you can easily read all those terms and conditions, where you do not have to lead yourself to another website or another platform, so that okay, I have to click this term and condition, I have to read this guideline, then come again and register it. No, it should be on that screen only. Now consent not valid where there is a clear imbalance between the individual and the controller. It should be in a balanced way, where the individual requirement and the controller requirement should be dealt of. Now the withdrawal of a consent, how the consent should be withdrawn, it should also be mentioned under the consent thing. If legitimate, we are talking about the processing data for certain legitimate uses under section 7 of the DPDP Act. What are those things? Voluntarily provided personal data by data principal. Like some of the cases where the data principal, that means the individual or the citizen who is going to share their data while accessing any kind of IoT devices or any other device, mobile devices where this kind of a data are required. So they had voluntarily, without any restriction or without asking those things or without signing any term and condition, you yourself had given your personal data, that will be covered under legitimate usage. For the purpose of employment or those related to safeguarding the employer from loss or liability, for matter concerning public interest, that is medical emergency or the judicial use, it should be covered under the legitimate uses. By the state and any of its instrumentalities for any function under any law for the time being in force. That means the authorized entity of the law. It should be empowered by the legal provision. So you can see that there is a clear indication of government, the clear intention of the government is also with the data related to the physically disabled person or the children. DPDP Act also provided few of the provision where the data belongs to the children below the age of 13 or the physically disabled person, like in what manner their data will going to process, like on behalf of children who will going to give their consent. So you can see that obtain verifiable parental consent for child and person with disability. No processing that is likely to cause detrimental effect on well-being of child. Such kind of a processing will not allowed under the DPDP Act. No tracking or behavioral monitoring of children or targeted advertising directed at children. Such thing is not allowed. And what are the exempted thing? For purpose to be prescribed where processing is verifiable by safe government may specify age. So basically you can see that it's not that your children or any children can give their data willingly to any person. Until and unless on behalf of that children, the parent or the guardian, lawful guardian has not given the things, that data will not be processed. Now coming to the right of data principle, that is the individual or the citizen we are talking about. Right to access information regarding processing of personal data. They have the right, like to ask the data processor or the data fiduciary, like for what purpose you are collecting my and gathering my data and where you will going to process it. And right to correction, completion, updating and erasure of her personal data for the processing. These are the very important terms. I would like to again put emphasis on the correction, erasure, updation, completion. Like it's your data, it cannot be static. Sometimes the data is also need updation and the amendments. So that thing also these are the things should also be incorporated by the data processor and the data fiduciary. Right of grievance redressal. What if your data is going to be processed for the things where you had not given your consent, and what if the data principal is going to give your data to other entity without your consent, and what other things where the data processor has not taken your consent and done the same. So there should be a grievance redressal where the individual, the data principal can raise their grievance and that grievance should be redressed. Right to nominate on the event of death, incapacity of the data principal. These are the leading provision under section 11 to 14 of the DPDP Act, which is always deal with the data privacy and data security. Obligation of data fiduciary. These are the obligations which of the data fiduciary who will going to tell the data processor for what purpose and for what manner the data principal's data can be processed. So implement technical and organizational measures to ensure effective adherence with the Act. They will going to have their technical and organizational measures so that your data can be processed under the DPDP Act in a rightful manner. There should not be any kind of a data breach. They will going to protect it by establishing data protection board and the data, and they will also going to monitor the other patterns like the patterns related to the data processing which lead to the children and the other advertisement things. And they will going to also giving a clear and concise comprehensive notice to the data principal. The notice is very important because in this notice only the data principal going to have the knowledge for what purpose your data is going to be shared, gathered, collect and processed. So these are the few of the important things. I will not go to each and everything. I will leave you to so that you can read in the DPDP Act. It's already in the public domain. And duties of the data principal. Comply with provision all applicable law to ensure not to impersonate another person while providing her personal data. Now the impersonation thing is also there in the Information Technology Act. It's also there in the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023 and it's also covered under 2023 DPDP Act. So you can see that there are few responsibilities of the data fiduciary, data processor, but there is also responsibility which is of the data principal, that is you, that is the individual and the citizen of this country whose data is going to be processed. So while we are talking about the IoT and other things, the adverse impact and the legal regulation of that, we should also keep in the mind that okay, we are giving our data for kind of access to the digital appliances, but we have to also think that there are certain responsibility mentioned under the DPDP Act which we had to take care of. Until and unless we are not having this clear picture that what are the responsibility mentioned under DPDP Act related to the data principle, you cannot claim that okay, the data processor or the data fiduciary has led to the unauthorized access of your data. No, you have to also be very clear for your responsibility. The responsibility delegated to the responsibility entailed to this data principle. Retention of personal data is the DPDP also talk about that for what time, for what duration your data will going to be prevail over that platform. There will be the clear timeline mentioned by the data processor, like for what period they are going to have their data, your data with them, and what are the manners where you can withdraw your consent if you do not wanted to share your data. We have data protection board as the regulatory body or as the supervisory body, where the IoT or the appliances thing, IoT devices is going to be regulated. Now, coming to the penalties provision, the government has given the maximum penalty to up to rupees 250 crores in case of the data breach.
Right. What else these guidelines are, if you can just explain these sections to a common person, because we cannot understand the technicalities as such, and though rules and regulations are there, but because we are so unaware of their existence, and even if we come face to face with them, we do not understand the language and we don't know how to protect ourselves or whom to approach and how to approach when something goes wrong.
Okay. Now, after in force of this DPDP Act, we had created grievance redressal mechanism. We had created this data protection board. So, and we are going to have a regulatory mechanism very soon if we are talking about the regulatory framework, because right now in existing situation, we are the government is thinking about to establish more regulatory framework in case of this emerging technology. So, the citizens have the convenient method in case of the data breach, in case of the unauthorized access. Right now, if we are not talking about the DPDP Act, in IT Act only, you can also report your case in case of unauthorized access. You feel that your data has been given to other entity or the entity which you have not shared, the data belongs to another person or it goes off the hand, then you can also complain to your local cyber cell. Quoting this IT provision, like section 66 is there, which rightfully talk about the various other offenses, unauthorized access of your computer devices, and what are the other things where you can, where this fraudster or cyber criminal can be dealt. So, it's not that the citizen is not having any kind of mechanism to deal this data privacy or anything. Data privacy is already covered under the IT Act, and these IT Act can easily be invoked by the citizens. If they feel that something bad happened, something unlawful happened with them, they can easily approach to the cyber cell, they can report their complaint, they can register the FIR against of them. So, the particular authority, the cyber cell authority will take definite actions as mentioned under this IT Act.
So, if you can go through these sections that you have brought for us.
Okay, we had talked about this IT Act. What are the leading section of the IT Act where the citizen can report their case in case of the data breach and other things. You see that in case of unauthorized access of your computer system, which can lead the damage of your computer system, which can breach your data, which is already prevailing in your computer system, you can report this thing under section 66, which read with the section 43 of the IT Act, where you can seek the compensation of your loss also. Section 65 also dealt for your tampering of computer source document, which is also punishable, and where the imprisonment is up to 3 years and the fine is also up to 2 lakh. So, section 66, which is read with the section 43, which I already talked about, in case of identity theft, misuse of electronic records, or any kind of another unauthorized access like hacking and etc. You can report your case to the cyber cell. In case of identity theft, like in case of personation, or in case that your identity belongs to someone else and they are claiming that you are the person whom the identity belongs, and they are targeting your near and dear ones, claiming that you are the claimed person. and so that if you have the knowledge that your identity, you have been targeted with this identity theft offense, then you can report this easily to your cyber cell and quoting that this thing happened to yourself and your data has been compromised or lead to the unauthorized access. Again, we have section 66D where we talked about the personation. It's also there in the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita under section 319. So all are these penal provision is there for your impersonation kind of thing. Like impersonation is the offense. I would like to give you a current, that is burning example in our country, that is the digital arrest. That is the leading example of the impersonation, where the other person who is behind of the camera claiming himself as the CBI or the cyber cell or the police authority and claiming that your son, your daughter or your near dear has been captured by me and you have to give some amount so that I only release your child. And the citizens got trapped in such kind of a situation and they give the particular amount to those persons who are nothing but the cyber fraudster, cyber criminals. So I would also like to give you a kind reminder which is already in public and which our Honorable Prime Minister also talked about: stop, think and take actions while dealing the digital arrest thing. No government official, no CBI person will do such kind of a thing. There is not any provision in any of the legal framework where such kind of investigation, inquiry has been done online through virtual mode. There is nothing like that.
Absolutely. And now, sir, since we are running short of time, we have to wrap up our conversation here only. But thank you so much, sir, for your contribution to the session. And we, always get these reminders from banks and other agencies also that they do not ask for passwords or OTP, so we don't have to share. And then you have told about the different sections that are there to protect us from the these threats that are happening. So viewers, that was our session on day 4 where we talked about legal landscape of IoT and mobile devices, and navigating regulations and compliance was the crux of it. So thank you so much, Mr. Satyendra, for coming here and being with us and sharing those important insights on the topic. So this was our day 4 session under the umbrella theme of Internet of Things and mobile devices and its safety. So with this, it's a wrap. And before I leave, let's take a quick look at the schedule, what's coming ahead. Well, this is the entire list of programs in front of you that you've been watching, and in a short while from now, you will watch Sahyog. So that's it from my side today. This is me, Harpreet Kaur, taking leave of you. Please stay tuned with us for more educational programs. Namaskar.